When a woman puts her heart on the line, she's not just texting words, she's revealing a little piece of her soul. And when a man gets it right, when he taps into the rhythm of her heart without even touching her skin, something undeniable happens. You see, women don't fall for texts filled with emojis or cliches. They fall for how you make them feel when the screen lights up with your name. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the message, it's about the energy behind it. And most men, they don't even realize how close they are to unlocking something real, something irresistible, if they just knew how to speak her language through the words they type. Maybe you felt it before, when she used to respond in seconds and now takes hours. Or when her messages went from fire to frost and you're left staring at the screen, wondering what went wrong. You're not crazy and you're not alone. Because the truth is, every woman secretly longs to be understood, to feel seen even in a simple good morning. And when a man finally learns how to text her in a way that speaks to her emotions, not just her logic, she doesn't just reply, she feels. And that changes everything. One, emotional echo, mirror her inner world, not just her words. There's something unspoken that happens in a woman's heart when a man finally learns how to see beyond what she says. It's not about being charming or saying the right thing at the perfect time. It's about making her feel like someone actually gets her. Most men are so focused on what a woman is saying that they completely miss what she's feeling. And that's where connection dies. Because a woman can be texting you, "I'm fine." But deep down, she's screaming to be seen. She's itching for someone to hear the tremble behind the words, to sense the storm behind the silence, and to choose to stay present with her anyway. That is the power of emotional echo. Every message a woman sends carries emotional weight, even the simple ones. It's never just about the words on the screen. When she says, "I had a long day," what she really wants to know is, do you care enough to ask why? When she types, nothing much. It could mean she's testing to see if you'll pull her out of the emotional cave she's hiding in. And when she says, "Good night," what she might actually be hoping for is one more reason to stay up just a little longer, to feel less alone in the dark. But so many men respond to words, not feelings. And that's why she slowly pulls away, emotionally starves, or stops responding altogether. Not because she's playing games, but because she feels invisible. And nothing scares a woman more than being emotionally invisible to a man she hoped would understand her. The truth is, women aren't asking for poetry or grand gestures in texts. What they're craving is recognition. To be acknowledged not just for their beauty or their body, but for the delicate chaos swirling behind the words they carefully type out. And a man who knows how to listen with his heart, not just his eyes, becomes someone unforgettable. Think about it. When she tells you about something small, something random, like a moment she shared with her dog or how she spilled coffee that morning, it's not meaningless. It's her opening the door to her world, inch by inch, seeing if you'll step in or just stand outside looking through the window. And if you respond with presence, if you match her energy, if you reflect her feelings back to her without trying to fix or judge or dominate, that's when she melts. That's when the walls come down. Because finally, someone is listening not just to respond, but to feel with her. You want to know what texts she can't resist. It's the ones where you echo her emotion. It's not about being a therapist or overly sensitive. It's about emotional intelligence. If she says she's overwhelmed, don't just say, "Hang in there." Say, "That sounds heavy. Want to talk about it? I've got time for you." If she says she doesn't feel like herself, don't dismiss it with, "You'll be fine." Say something like, "That must feel strange. I miss your spark already. What can I do to help bring it back?" These aren't just responses, they're emotional mirrors. And when a woman sees her emotional state reflected back to her with compassion, she begins to feel safe. And safety for a woman is the foundation of all attraction. And it's not just when she's sad or tired. Even in her excitement, you need to reflect. If she tells you she aced an interview or got through something difficult, don't just say, "That's great," go deeper. Say, "You really showed your strength today. I hope you're as proud of yourself as I am of you." When you validate her joy, you feed her soul. When you notice what matters to her, she begins to believe that she matters to you. That's the difference between texting to pass time and texting to build connection. Most men chase attention, but the man who can echo a woman's emotions through a simple sentence becomes unforgettable. He becomes her comfort, her home, her safe space. So many men think they need to impress women with status, with jokes, with pictures, with performance. But none of that touches her core if she feels emotionally alone in the conversation. You could be handsome, successful, even charismatic. But if she feels like she's talking to a wall, you'll lose her attention no matter how good your profile picture is. And the wild part, most women won't even tell you when you failed this test. They'll just emotionally retreat. Their replies get shorter. Their energy drops. They go from exclamation points to full stops. That's not her being moody. That's her grieving a connection she hoped would become something deeper. You have to understand, women live in an emotional landscape. Even the most logical, career-driven, confident woman still desires a man who can emotionally tune in, who can read between the lines, who hears her when she's quiet and understands that sometimes silence screams louder than words. She wants someone who can tell when her "I'm okay" really means "I'm drowning." And instead of walking away from that discomfort, he leans in. Because leaning in, emotionally, is what earns trust. And trust is the bridge to intimacy. It's not about having the perfect words. It's about being present enough to know when your words matter. It's about remembering the details she shares with you. It's when she tells you her favorite song on a rough day and you text her the lyrics that night. It's when she mentions her mom isn't well and you check in 2 days later, not because you had to, but because you genuinely care. It's in those small, unnoticed moments that a woman's heart begins to open. Not because you wowed her with compliments, but because you made her feel like her feelings were safe with you. And this isn't just about getting her attention. This is about keeping her attention. Because once a woman realizes you understand her inner world, she starts bringing you deeper into it. She starts telling you her fears, her dreams, her regrets, her past. She begins to trust you with her truth. And when a woman gives you access to her truth, that is not a small thing. That is sacred. And if you mishandle it, if you ignore her feelings, if you treat her vulnerability like a burden instead of a gift, she'll close off. And once a woman emotionally closes, it's nearly impossible to reach her again in the same way. You want to know why she used to text you all the time and now barely replies. It's not always because she's busy. Sometimes it's because you didn't know how to respond to her heart. You were too focused on being interesting instead of being interested. And the thing about women, they feel the difference. They can sense when someone is texting just to get a response versus when someone is texting to create a connection. And believe me, the man who texts for connection will always stand out. Always. Women remember how you make them feel more than what you say. So when your message makes her feel seen, when your words make her feel heard, when your response matches her emotional tone, something inside her softens. Her guard comes down. Her hope rises. Because suddenly, you're not just another guy in her phone. You're someone who gets it. Someone who doesn't run from her emotion, but welcomes it. Someone who makes texting feel like coming home. That's what emotional echo is all about. It's not manipulation. It's not a strategy. It's emotional presence. It's showing her that her feelings matter to you, that her energy matters to you, that she is not alone in her joy or her sadness or her silence. And once she feels that your messages will no longer be just texts, they'll be comfort. They'll be something she waits for, longs for, craves. Because now, every time her screen lights up with your name, it reminds her, I'm safe here. I'm understood here. I'm valued here. And that right there is how you become the man she can't ignore and never wants to lose. 2. Tension over time. Don't rush. Build emotional anticipation. There is something profoundly magnetic about a man who doesn't rush connection. A man who understands that the most powerful way to hold a woman's attention is not through constant messages, but through intentional presence and strategic silence. You see, most men believe that if they're not always texting, always replying, always showing up in her inbox every hour, they'll lose her. That if they give her space, she'll forget them. But here's the truth most men never hear: when a woman emotionally feels you, when your presence lingers in her thoughts, it's not the frequency of your messages that keeps her interested. It's the tension you create in the spaces between them. You have to understand something important about female psychology. Women bond emotionally in layers through feeling, not logic, and emotional anticipation. Waiting, wondering, hoping is one of the most powerful ways to spark desire in her mind. The problem is we live in a world that confuses accessibility with value. So men assume that being available 24/7 through texting makes a woman feel more secure, more seen, more connected. But the opposite is often true. When a man is too available, when he's always texting, always initiating, always replying within seconds, what happens is that the mystery dissolves. The allure fades. The energy becomes predictable. And predictable energy is rarely exciting for the feminine heart. That's why women so often lose interest in men who seem perfect. on paper. It's not because the man lacks charm or kindness. It's because he doesn't understand emotional pacing. He doesn't know how to create rhythm, the dance of desire that makes a woman crave his presence even in his absence. When every message you send is instantly followed by another. When you're always the one to restart the conversation, when there's no emotional breathing space, you unintentionally deprive her of one of the most intoxicating elements of connection, longing. Longing is the unspoken thread that binds a woman's imagination to you. It lives in the pauses, in the moments between messages where she wonders, what's he thinking about right now? Is he missing me too? That curiosity is not something to fear, it's something to build. But most men are too afraid to create space because they think space equals disinterest. They don't realize that by always being available, they give her no opportunity to feel her way into the connection. They think they're nurturing the bond, but in reality, they're drowning it. Here's what women rarely say out loud: she wants to feel something. Not just read it. She wants your messages to create sensations: excitement, curiosity, warmth, thrill. And when you leave just enough space for her to sit in the emotional echo of your last message, she gets a chance to feel. And if what you said had depth, had soul, had subtle intrigue, then every minute that passes without your follow-up message builds something powerful inside her. Not frustration, not rejection, but desire. And that desire, that's where connection moves from casual to captivating. You see, the man who knows how to pace a connection understands that not every moment needs to be filled. That silence is not the enemy, it's a tool. When used with purpose, silence amplifies presence. Think of music. The most powerful songs aren't just endless notes. They're made of beats and pauses, of rhythm and restraint. It's the silence between the lyrics that gives the words their weight. The same applies to texting. When every message is immediately answered, there's no room for tension. But when you hold space, when you give her time to feel your words, you begin to live not just in her inbox, but in her imagination. And once you're in her imagination, everything changes. So many men are terrified of this. They've been taught that if they don't reply quickly, they'll seem disinterested. That if they don't text, "Good morning," every day, she'll lose interest. But here's the thing. If a woman's interest in you is entirely dependent on your constant texting, then the foundation of your connection isn't strong to begin with. Real emotional attraction doesn't need to be babysat. It needs to be nurtured through intention, not intensity. There's a quiet confidence in a man who doesn't rush. A man who knows his value and doesn't need to explain it through endless messages. He texts when he means it, not because he's trying to fill a void. He doesn't fear pauses because he knows he's memorable. And because of that, his energy becomes rare. And in a world full of noise, rare becomes irresistible. Women remember the man whose messages make them feel, not the one who texts the most. When you understand this, your entire approach to communication changes. You stop texting out of obligation or fear. You start texting from a place of calm presence. You allow space for the dynamic to breathe, to stretch, to deepen. You're not disappearing or playing games. You're allowing the connection to marinate, to simmer, because fast, burned connections usually burn out just as quickly. But the slow build, that's where emotional gravity grows. That's where a woman begins to trust the pace, to lean in, to invest emotionally. One of the most irresistible things you can do is let her miss you. Not by pulling away out of insecurity or manipulation, but by being so present in your last message that she feels your absence when you're not texting. This is where emotional memory forms. It's when she reads your message, not because you haven't replied yet, but because it made her feel something. Maybe it was a playful tease. Maybe it was a deeply thoughtful comment. Maybe it was a moment of genuine curiosity about her world. Whatever it was, it left an impression. And impressions grow in the silence. That's why pacing matters. That's why tension matters. Because when you give her time to absorb, to reflect, to want more, you create emotional depth. And emotional depth is the soil where lasting attraction grows. Not surface level fascination. Not good morning text for the sake of consistency, but real, soul-stirring connection that she carries with her throughout the day. Think about how powerful that is. She's out with friends, and you haven't texted her in hours, but your last message is still playing in her mind. Not because you ghosted, but because you created space with intention. That space becomes a container for her feelings, for her anticipation, for her desire. And when you return to that space with a well-timed message that matches her emotional rhythm, that's where you go from just another guy in her phone to the man she feels connected to. And connection is what she's really looking for. It's not about how often you text. It's about what your energy says when you text. Are you texting because you're afraid she'll forget you? Or are you texting because something in you genuinely wants to offer her presence, insight, lightness, or depth? Women feel the difference. One energy feels needy. The other feels intentional. One makes her feel responsible for your insecurity. The other makes her feel cherished without pressure. And this isn't about playing hard to get. It's about becoming someone worth getting. Someone who doesn't throw his energy around for the sake of attention, but focuses it with care. A man who knows how to hold back just enough to make his next message feel like a gift. And when she starts to crave that gift, not because it's loud or constant, but because it's meaningful, that's when you've tapped into something most men never do. Women aren't drawn to chaos. They're drawn to presence wrapped in patience. To the kind of man who knows that emotional connection is a fire that burns brighter when it's not constantly smothered by overexposure. You don't need to keep texting her to stay on her mind. You just need to make your words matter enough that she wants you there, even in your silence. She wants to feel tension, not the kind that confuses her or makes her anxious, but the kind that creates butterflies. The kind that lives in the space between your messages and makes her smile when she sees your name pop up. Because your texts don't feel like routine, they feel like connection. Like little moments of electricity that remind her you're still present, even when you're not constantly texting. You build this by pacing the interaction, by letting things breathe, by not rushing to fill every moment, by resisting the urge to immediately answer everything. You respond when your energy is clear, calm, and grounded. You engage in a way that makes her feel not just noticed, but emotionally drawn in. The man who understands this becomes unforgettable, not because he overwhelms her, but because he allows the energy between them to expand. He becomes the one she thinks about when she's alone, the one she talks to her friends about, wondering why his messages feel different, the one whose silence doesn't feel like absence, but like invitation, an invitation for her to lean in emotionally and meet him there. That's the power of emotional tension over time. It's not manipulation, it's emotional intelligence. It's understanding that texting isn't just about words. It's about energy. It's about how your presence makes her feel, even when you're not there. It's about being intentional enough to give her just enough of you to want more, while never needing to chase her for validation. And once you understand this rhythm, everything about your communication shifts. You start showing up from a place of self-worth, not self-doubt. You become the calm in a noisy world, the pause that refreshes her, the message that makes her breathe deeper. And she won't even know why, but she'll feel it. Every time. 3. Voice between the lines. Mastering the unspoken tone of texts. In the world of texting, most men think communication is about what they type. But women don't just read your words, they read your energy. They feel your tone. They intuitively sense your mood, your confidence, your uncertainty, your emotional availability, all from a single message. That's the secret most men miss. Your tone carries more weight than your words. It's not about writing the perfect sentence. It's about letting your presence be felt between the lines. That's the voice she listens to, even when you're silent. And when you master that, you don't just communicate, you connect. You see, women are emotionally wired to read subtext. Their sensitivity to tone is not just instinct, it's survival. From a young age, women learn to pick up on cues, energy shifts, emotional undercurrents. So when she reads your text, she's not just asking, "What did he say?" She's asking, "How did it feel?" And if the energy behind your message is off, flat, needy, aggressive, indifferent, she doesn't need to analyze it. She feels it instantly. That's why two men can text the same line. "Hey, how's your day going?" And one will make her smile, while the other makes her want to put her phone away. It's not the words. It's the tone beneath them. The reason most men fail to create emotional attraction through texting is because they're trying to be interesting instead of being felt. They use clever lines, emojis, memes, flirty banter, but it doesn't land because their emotional state isn't aligned with their message. You can't fake energy. You can't hide insecurity behind a joke. Women know. So the question is not, what should I say to impress her? The real question is, what do I want her to feel when she reads this? Because that one shift in focus will change everything. Think about how you show up. Are your messages grounded or reactive? Are you texting to give or to get? Are you holding calm, masculine presence or trying to manufacture attraction? When your energy is rooted, calm, and clear, your messages carry depth. Even the simplest line, "thinking of you," can make her heart skip a beat. But if your energy is anxious, If you're texting just to keep her from slipping away, that same message feels clinging, not caring. The words didn't change. The energy did. And energy always tells the truth. One of the most magnetic things you can do in texting is speak with emotional clarity. That doesn't mean being overly emotional or dramatic. It means letting your emotional intention come through your words. If you're proud of her, say it with warmth and strength. If you're teasing her, let it come with safety and playfulness. If you're curious, let your curiosity have weight. Not because you're trying to flatter her, but because you mean it. A woman can feel the difference between surface level attention and soul level presence. When your tone is clear, women feel relaxed around you. They feel safe. They don't have to overanalyze your messages or question your intent. They just know, this is a man who says what he means and means what he says. That kind of emotional transparency is rare, and rare is magnetic. Because when a woman senses that your tone is authentic, grounded, and emotionally attuned, she lets down her guard. She doesn't just respond to your text, she leans into you emotionally. And here's what most men overlook: tone is not just in the words you choose. It's in the rhythm of your message. It's in the punctuation, the timing, the spacing. A well-placed pause, an ellipsis, a moment of silence between two replies. These are emotional tools. They say, I'm not rushing this. They say, I'm here and I'm listening. They say, you matter. But most men fill every silence with noise. They overtext, overexplain, overcompensate because they're uncomfortable with emotional space. But emotional space is where trust is built. You build emotional tone by being emotionally present. That means not texting when your energy is off. That means not trying to force connection when you're distracted, stressed, or insecure. Because your tone will bleed through no matter how carefully you craft your message. Women are not looking for perfection. They're looking for emotional resonance. When your inner state is aligned, even your shortest messages hit deep. When it's not, even your longest ones fall flat. So how do you master tone? First, by mastering yourself. Get calm before you send. Get clear. Ask yourself, why am I texting her right now? If it's from a place of need, fear, or boredom, pause. Wait. Come back to your center. Let your message come from abundance, not scarcity. When you text from overflow, your tone becomes rich, warm, grounded, safe. That's the tone that makes a woman want to reply. That's the tone that pulls her in without pressure. Second, listen to her tone. Match it. Mirror it. If she's playful, lean into it. If she's thoughtful, slow down. If she's distant, give her space with love, not panic. Most men ignore this completely. They bulldoze over her energy with their own agenda. But the man who listens, not just to her words but her tone, makes her feel understood. That's the golden key. When she feels emotionally met, she begins to trust. And trust is the gateway to intimacy. There's also a power in subtle leadership. That's the tone that says, I've got this. It's not controlling or arrogant, it's reassuring. It's the message that holds space for her emotions, that leads with clarity, that initiates with certainty. Women love a man whose messages feel like an anchor, not a question mark. A man whose presence in her phone doesn't create anxiety but relief. That's the kind of tone that builds emotional loyalty. It's not just about what you say, it's about how you make her feel when you say it. Tone is also in your humor. But it's not about being the funniest guy in the room. It's about being emotionally aware with your humor. Are your jokes inclusive or dismissive? Are you laughing with her or trying to prove something? The man who can make her laugh while making her feel safe. That's a rare and powerful combination. It creates emotional chemistry, and emotional chemistry through text is possible only when tone is aligned with intention. Don't mistake high frequency for high connection. Don't chase response. Create resonance. When your tone is off, even the most well-structured message can make her feel cold. But when your tone is attuned, even a single sentence can feel like a warm embrace. She doesn't want a script. She wants presence. She wants to feel like you're there with her, even when the only thing between you is a blinking cursor on her screen. Some men say, women are too emotional when it comes to texting. But what they fail to understand is, emotion is the language of connection. When you meet her there, when you honor that emotional depth instead of resisting it, you unlock a side of her most men never see. The side that texts back with depth, with play, with passion, with heart. Women are not hard to understand. They just need to feel you. When you send a message, don't send it just for her eyes. Send it for her heart. Make her feel calm. Make her feel seen. Make her feel alive. That's the voice between the lines she's been waiting to hear. And when she hears it, truly hears it, she won't be able to stop thinking about you. Not because you said something perfect, but because you finally made her feel something real. In the end, it's never just about what you say, it's about what she feels when she reads it. The man who wins her heart isn't the one who texts the most, replies the fastest, or sends the smoothest lines. It's the one who creates emotional presence, who builds tension with patience, and who lets his tone speak louder than words. When you master these unspoken secrets, timing, energy, and emotional resonance, your messages don't just reach her phone, they reach her soul. And once you've touched her there, she won't forget you.